Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to jump right into the deep end with one of the world's biggest programming languages, Java. We're talking about the absolute fundamentals, how to store information, and how to build the basic blueprint for your very first program. All right, let's dive in.
So let me ask you something. Ever wonder how your favorite app somehow remembers your username? Or how a game keeps track of your high score, even after you've closed it? It's not magic, right? It's a really core idea in programming that lets software hold on to information.
And the answer to that question? It all comes down to what you can think of as Java's data containers. In the coding world, we call these variables, and they are, without a doubt, the essential building blocks that make our software actually do useful stuff.
So what in the world is a variable? Well, the easiest way to picture it is like a labeled box, a little container that you set aside in your computer's memory. You give this box a name, and then you put a piece of data inside. The cool part is you can come back anytime to see what's in the box or even swap it out for something new. Now, creating one of these boxes in Java follows a very specific recipe, or what we call syntax. It looks just like this. First, you have to declare the type of data the box is going to hold. Then you give your box a unique name. And finally, you use the equal sign to assign the value that you're going to put inside it. Let's look at a real example here. Int age equals 20. Let's break it down. That first part, int, tells Java, hey, this box can only hold whole numbers, integers. Next, we give our box the name age. And finally, we put the value 20 inside of it. And that's it. Simple as that. Of course, just like any language, Java has its own set of grammar rules. And when it comes to naming these containers, there are a few things you absolutely have to get right. Okay, these are the big ones. Your variable name has to start with a letter, a $sign, or an underscore. Super important. It can't, under any circumstances, start with a number. You also can't use special reserved words that Java uses for itself, like class or int. And this one's a real gotcha. Java is case sensitive. That means a variable named age with a lowercase a is a totally different box from one named age with a capital A. So what kinds of stuff can we actually put in these boxes? Let's go over the most common types. We already met int. That's for whole numbers like 10 or -50. But if you have decimal points like 3.14, you're going to need a double. For just a single character, like the letter A, we use a char. For whole words or sentences, we use the one called a string. And last but not least, for any simple yes or no, true or false question, you've got Boolean. It can only ever be true or false. Okay, great. We've got our data containers, our variables. We know what they can hold. But where do they actually go? Where do they live? Well, that brings us to the blueprint for pretty much every single Java application you'll ever see. And here it is in all its glory, the classic Hello World program. Now, I know, at first glance, it might look a little intimidating. You've got all these keywords and brackets and parentheses, but don't worry. This is the fundamental structure of everything, and we're about to make every single line here make perfect sense. All right, let's deconstruct this thing piece by piece. This is the essential blueprint you're going to use as a starting point for pretty much everything you build in Java. Okay, let's do this. First up, you see that line public class hello world. Everything in Java has to live inside a class. Just think of it as the main building for your program. Now, inside that building is a very special room, the main method. That's the official front door, the exact starting point where Java begins to run your code. Then we have the action itself, system.out.println. This is the instruction, what we're actually telling the program to do, which in this case is to print some text. And finally, you have to pay attention to the punctuation. The curly braces create code blocks, kind of like walls for our rooms. And that little semicolon at the end of a line, that's like the period in a sentence. It tells Java, okay, this instruction is finished. So let's just quickly recap the absolute essentials, right? The key takeaways. Number 1, variables are just containers for storing your data. Number 2, all your Java code has to live inside a class. 3, every single program kicks off from that special main method. And finally, don't forget your structure. Curly braces for your code blocks and a semicolon to end every single statement. So there you have it. You now have the absolute foundational knowledge of Java. You get how to store information, and you understand the basic skeleton of a program. That's a huge first step, seriously. So the only question left really is, now that you know the blueprint, what are you going to build first?